Good evening, everybody. Thank you for coming to the health show. Going to Today we are going to talk about euthanasia. Euthanasia is a big word for mercy killing. You know what mercy killing is? If you don't know what mercy killing is, just stay tuned, and then any of the debaters are going to bring it to your attention or explain it for you. I am pharmacist Ezekiel. I'm the health show host, and if you're here for the first time, you should like, subscribe, and share this video, and watch us as we try to thrill you with the information that we're going to bombard you with today. So we have our debaters, Ahaneku Precious and Aminu Balami. They're going to talk to us on euthanasia. Ahaneku Precious is supporting it, while Aminu is against euthanasia. So we're going to have them speak now. Thank you, Precious.
Okay, so good evening, everyone. My name is Precious Ahaneku, and I'm going to be speaking for, in support of you. I'm looking at my times. So I'm going to start in 5, 4, 3, 2. Oh wait, just to be clear, I'm being timed over there, right?
Yes, your time here.
Okay, great. So I'm going to start in 3, 2, 1, go. Good evening, everyone. My name is Precious Ahaneku, and basically, we are speaking in support of euthanasia. First thing to understand is that euthanasia itself is a word it's a word used in place of assisted killing or mercy killing, as you've already heard from the host. Basically, what it means is in terms of when people have very serious illnesses, things like maybe a stage 4 cancer, or they have very seriously wrong prognosis of surviving from one particular illness or the other, like they are most likely not going to survive. But in addition to that, it basically means that these people are experiencing immense amounts of pain. Number one, notice that in these situations, the first thing to understand is that the prognosis is very poor. The likelihood is that that person itself is most likely not going to survive. But also, secondly, that person in itself is probably going to waste a lot of funds and a lot of medical resources and energy, etc., trying to cure himself from something that would most likely he will never ever recover from, right? I think that in itself is most likely problematic in most situations. But also, I think it's important, let's understand when this euthanasia itself is actually being done is in situations where you already understand that that person itself is not going to get better. But also, secondly, that person itself is most likely experiencing a large amounts of pain. Very important to understand in this particular debate is that euthanasia itself is never ever done in terms of saying that, oh, that person, doctors just autonomously and unanimously decide to kill a patient they feel like he's not going to survive. They almost always, in fact 100% of the time, they always have the permission of the patient who have already suffered a lot of pain, right? So these patients tell the doctors to go ahead and kill them because they feel like dying itself is most likely going to be better for them than to continue living with very low prognosis of being cured. In most situations, we think that people have the right to go down those kind of paths, right? But also understand that the main aim of medicine in today's world, or in the modern world, is to provide comfort and make life generally better. But in situations where euthanasia itself comes into the picture, it basically shows that that patient himself, medicine is failing him at that particular point in time. So in most situations, medicine cannot do anything in those situations. It's very, very much better for that person to withdraw and say that it's allowed for the person to say, oh, I don't want to continue living anymore. It's better for me to just die. That in itself is very important. Panel, note that this itself is something that is done on the basis of consent, very importantly. But I also think that this debate is not supposed to be saying things for the opponents. It's not. They are not supposed to say things like, "Oh, we feel like euthanasia itself is currently prohibited because of things like a Hippocratic oath, etc., etc." That cannot be part of this debate for the sole reason that this debate itself happens in a world where we are still trying to determine whether it's good, not in a world where laws have already been passed to say euthanasia is evil, nobody should engage in it. This debate essentially happens in the world where we are still talking about whether we are going to legalize it or not. So we don't want to hear arguments such as, oh, it's illegal, so it's basically a medical practitioner going out of his way to violate laws. That is not what this debate is going to be about. Panel, move on. Notice that the only principle on their side of the house is the principle that says, oh, life in itself is sacred. They don't kill anybody. Life in itself is like is sacred and all that. Yes, we believe life is sacred, but you should understand that the value of life itself is highly determined by the degree to which the person living that life actually enjoys his life. To a point where we feel like the person is not enjoying his life, his like that particular life anymore. We don't think that that person considers his life sacred, and the doctors can feel free to heed the person's like concept, heed the person's request to actually take their own life. I think that that is a principle that should apply in this debate. When someone feels like their life is not as sacred and as enjoyable as they feel it should be, they should have the opportunity to end it there. But also, panel, very important to note in this debate is that stakeholders, people who are going to be affected by this particular thing, are the most important people. The first most important person, obviously, is the person whose prognosis is very, very poor, whose death itself is only just being delayed, but the person is experiencing pain as far as status quo is concerned. This person himself is the person that is most likely suffering, or most likely the biggest stakeholder in this particular debate. We feel like to a point where these people are most likely going to suffer
All
things
right.
like
Thank you. Thank you
trauma,
very much, Precious.
they should be able to
Thank you very much.
withdraw. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Precious. I admire your passion to point out so many facts in this topic. I have one question for you. I have several, but I will just ask one before we move
Yeah.
over to, to Aminu. You mentioned that the patient who's passing through this pain have to be the one to give the permission to the doctor. And you mentioned also that the patient passed through this pain have to be the one who has to judge his life quality enough to stay or to want to die. Did I get you correctly?
Okay. In terms of that, what I say is that most times euthanasia is done on the basis of consent. The only
Yeah.
reason why someone would consent to being killed rather than to continue living and suffering is because he feels like his life is not as enjoyable as it
All
as
right.
it
All
should
right.
be. Or
All right.
you-
All right. Thank you. That's the point I want. Now, what separates then euthanasia from suicide?
okay, suicide is almost always involving it's personal, right? It's not something that is done on the basis of
Okay.
medical basis. Most times those things are likely psychological. And in terms of psychological illnesses, visiting a very good a very good therapist over time is likely going to take away like that particular depression over time. It doesn't happen all of a sudden, but yes, that itself is guaranteed that a person can actually recover from that particular mental illness. But we're talking
Oh,
about euthanasia.
okay.
In terms of euthanasia, these are diseases like maybe a
Okay.
stage
Okay. Okay. Now you're saying suicide is quite it's more psychological, and can be a drawdown from depression. So are you saying that there are no patients in the hospital who are not depressed but who contemplate suicide because of the condition they are in?
there are number one, if there are patients in the hospital, like irrespective of their medical prognosis or whatever, there are patients in the hospital who feel like they want to end it because of the kind of pain they're experiencing from like that their particular illness. It could be a terminal one, it might not be. But in situations, euthanasia is peculiar in that the illness is where it's involved. The prognosis or the chances of survival for that particular patient, they are
Okay.
extremely low. If the
Oh,
patient is happens to be someone who's suffering depression from one particular illness that can be cured, that is a very different scenario, because if you cure that particular illness that is giving them depression, you take away the depression automatically. That's the
okay.
difference.
All right. Thank you very much, Precious, for responding to those questions.
Yeah,
Aminu, I'll give
consultant.
you time. I'll give you time to have your 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
5 minutes, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. I'm starting in one, two, three. Good day, our host and my co-debator and our esteemed viewers. My name is Aminu Balami. I'm representing University of Maiduguri. I'm solidly standing against today's motion, which is euthanasia. Euthanasia is the painless killing of a patient suffering from an incurable or painful disease or in an irreversible coma. They call it assisted suicide. But in reality, it is no different from any other kind of suicide. 4 plus 1 will give you 5, 3 plus 2 will give you 5. So it doesn't matter how it is being done, as long as the end result is the same. Should a dying patient have the right to require doctors to end his life? Should doctors be protected from lawsuits for assisting their patients in taking their lives? Trust me, uh, anyone who is pro euthanasia is just being oblivion to the numerous threats that will accompany euthanasia. First things first, euthanasia violates many numerous religious beliefs, and Nigeria is, well, arguably one of the most religious countries in the earth. Uh, what do you think will happen when something like euthanasia is being considered? For example, in the Holy Quran, it has been said that when it is time for someone to die, neither can he delay nor postpone it by a millisecond. It means that life is sacred and divine and should not be interfered with. Also, Christianity recognizes life as a gift from God. Normally, even within our culture, it is disrespectful to decline gifts from people, not to talk more of God, the supreme being that we all actually believe in. I also learned that we have some few Jewish people, in Nigeria, and also the Jewish tradition also recognizes life as being sacred, and nothing that shortens life should actually be considered. Consequently, euthanasia can be abused. Let's say someone is going to benefit from someone that's going to die. For example, I have an auntie and she has a lot of valuables, and I really want to inherit those, and she's in a coma. My opponent made mention of 100% of the time they usually ask for the consent. It's not 100% of the time, because we actually spoke about people in coma too. In that situation, people are allowed to decide for them whether to live or not to live. And we are humans with selfish interest, so people can actually meddle and use that loophole against the patient. Another example is, what if a doctor makes a mistake in a surgical procedure and then attributes it to the patient being, accepting of euthanasia? These are all loopholes that can actually be used by evil people. Most of the people choose euthanasia not because they cannot bear the pain, but because they feel like they are not strong enough actually for it. It is a tragedy for someone who takes euthanasia, as they could have lived longer with some sicknesses actually. I've struggled with chronic cluster headaches. Had it been I chose or went for euthanasia, I wouldn't be here with you beautiful people, talking about this right now. There are a lot of people. Roman Reigns battles with leukemia, blood cancer, and he's still back in the ring and still a champion. Chadwick Boseman, the Black Panther hero, is being remembered for Black Panther, but he actually shot that movie while he was struggling with cancer. A lot of people don't know about that. So, considering euthanasia is just and thinking is like it's an easy way out, but it isn't really, because life without struggle is meaningless. There are a lot of people who have struggled with things that they haven't considered. This thing, I can go on and on. We have Lady Gaga, she struggles from fibromyalgia. We have Gigi Hadid struggling from Hashimoto's syndrome. We have a lot of them. There's a lot of them. I can keep the list going on and on. So what if all these great people chose euthanasia? We wouldn't have had energetic songs from people like Sia, who suffers from Graves' disease. We would have missed a beautiful sensation in the modeling industry like Gigi Hadid. Imagine a world without these people. Imagine a world without entertainment. Just imagine what a boring world that would be. There's a song that was sung by the Black Eyed Peas,
Thank you.
where
Thank you
they
very much.
mentioned.
Thank you very much.
Okay,
Thank you very
okay,
much, Aminu.
okay.
Thank you very much. All right, all right. You made a very, very, very wonderful point there. I really appreciate that. Now I have a question for you. I have several, but I'll ask this one. You made euthanasia seem like it is for every disease, it is for every sickness. But the question I have is, if there is a patient, there is a client in the hospital who has spent 12 months on oxygen. 12 months on oxygen. And he can't talk. And he has been on oxygen supply for 12 months. Now, the family, you know how much to fix somebody on oxygen? The last time I checked, it was about 7,000 naira for an hour. So imagine somebody spending 12 months like that. Now, considering the funds, and as soon as he's removed from that oxygen, he dies, which the doctor has confirmed. So what do you think should be done there? The family, they've run out of funds. They don't really know what to do to get that patient sustained on that oxygen. So what do you think? Do you think that is the easy way out, or that is actually what should be done? Euthanasia.
Life is worth fighting for. What has kept the world actually revolving is the ability or that mindset and conviction of people to never give up. So I think they should keep on till, like you said, when they are totally out of money, they can't keep on. That is not their decision now to make, because they're actually out of money, so they don't have a choice than to let go in that context. So it's not within them.
So,
it's just for them to allow nature to take its course.
So are you saying euthanasia, they ought to wait until they run out of money before
Yes.
they let go?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much for your response. It has been a very interesting time with two of you. In fact, both of you have been the most intellectually stimulating debaters we had, because this topic is quite very sensitive, and Precious here it was pouring the stuff very well, and you too. So I'll give you guys time now to ask questions to yourself. I think Precious, you have some questions for you. Precious, ask you a question, you respond, then you ask Precious a question. So
okay, I have one very important question with regards to consent. Every other thing would be in my reply speech. So the question I have to you, Aminu, is, you said that most times that family members sign consent forms for these people. You have to understand two things. Firstly, in situations where that happens, like, the doctors will most likely go to prison for things like killing and violating the Hippocratic Code. So such things are very sensitive and very, very much avoided by doctors. In situations where it's done, it's a very, very sensitive situation. Now, my question to you is that, do you think that if the particular patient who's involved in a surgery would have to sign consent form by himself, something as huge and sensitive as euthanasia, you think that someone would go ahead and sign consent form over another person's life? That's the question.
We are people. I can't answer for everyone, of course, but then people can do anything. Like, people can go to any length to achieve their personal, aims of people. Like the example I gave with someone having an auntie that he is sure he will inherit stuff from her if she dies, and then this opportunity comes to him. And it's actually, normally the people who are closest to us are the ones who, come back and backstab us. So anything can happen, actually.
Okay. You mean anything can happen, and then people can be dubious? Is that what you feel?
Yes.
All right. So okay, that's fine. Aminu, please send your questions. Send your question to Precious.
No, I think I had already asked him the question that I wanted to ask during my presentation. So.
Okay. So what was it? Can you please highlight it again so you can respond to it?
It was about the consent. He mentioned 100% of the time, and I was like, there are times where people are in coma and others will have to decide for them. So, and we have already discussed that.
Okay, so you mean you do not have a question for him currently?
No extra question.
All right. So, Precious, I have a question for you. There is this story. Sometime I think last year or so. A footballer, I have his name written here, Abdehak Nouri. He collapsed during a friendly match between Werder Bremen and Ajax in 2017. Now, he spent 3 years in coma. That footballer spent 3 years in coma, and he just woke up after 3 years, back to life.
Wow.
So now, with your current stand on on the current stand on euthanasia, what do you think? Do you think euthanasia actually gives people the ability to fight for their life back? What are you considering this life case that I just presented to you?
Okay. Um, I was going to respond to this because I mean also talked about it in his debate that most times like a miracle can happen. My response to that would be now we are not saying from my side of the house where we are saying that oh we are in support of euthanasia. There is nothing on this earth that has 100% advantage and 0% disadvantage. Everything like everything has its own bad side. What we are basically saying is that in situations where the prognosis of survival are very, very poor. But secondly, the patient is in a lot of pain, immense amount of pain. But also thirdly, there is nothing that can be medically done to remedy that situation. People should have the ability or like the ability to say, "Oh, I am tired of spending this much time. It's better. I'm much better off dead than continuing here." I've also heard such statements as like people saying like, "Oh, that in the situation right now in Igbo it's called Odihonwokama." It's basically saying, "Oh, I'm alive, but being dead is much better than this." Like so, in those situations, yes, we agree that sometimes miracles could happen, given that we live in a world that can be extremely spiritual or whatever, and also medical breakthroughs can happen. Yes, we agree, but those kind of medical breakthroughs don't happen every day, and it's on this particular status quo that these things don't happen every day that we are saying yes, like this thing should be allowed. If we say miracles actually happen every day and every time, it means that even someone that is still suffering from the final stage of maybe an ovarian cancer or something, like it basically means that even that person has hope, right? But in the world we currently live in, it's not like that. So basically, we support it, especially if the person who owns the life is okay with dying than staying alive and suffering.
All right. Thank you.
So,
Thank you very much. Aminu, I can see your hand here.
yeah, talking about miracles. Miracles need chance. You have to give chance for a miracle to happen. Miracle cannot just happen. You have to wait. There's timing. Everything has time for it. So, like this footballer, okay, yeah, I will admit that I didn't know about this story before from Ezekiel mentioned it. But then after 3 years, he has woken up, and you see, had it been they didn't give him this chance, he wouldn't have, had it. So people deserve chances. People deserve one chance, two chances, three, as much as possible chances, because life is just too amazing to for someone to just let it go just like that.
Exactly.
Okay. Okay. Aminu, I have a question for you. Now, a patient is, this is my last question anyway, for round up. A patient is having a critical stage, stage 4 cancer or something, and then the patient is calling for euthanasia, is calling to die, like complaining that she can't take it anymore, she wants to die. What would be your call? Do you force life on the patient by preventing these requests from the patient, or you simply answer or give the patient what she wants?
No, you don't force life. Like there's nothing such as force someone to live. We can't use force in life. They say you can take a horse to the river, but you can't force him to drink the water. So you can't force life down the throat of someone who doesn't want to live. But then most of these people are talking from a certain perspective, a perspective of pain, a perspective of depression. They think it's over. But with the right counseling, I am a cognitive behavioral therapist. With the right counseling, there's a way you can talk to those patients. They should give it a chance. They should give it a chance. There are right now as we are speaking, there are researches going on cancer. They might even try something that it's like clinical trial or something, and they might, because people have actually tried some experimental drugs and they've worked for them. So I'd rather suggest for them, empower them with that mindset, first of all, that they should fight because their life is worth fighting for. And then we'll try as much as possible to see that even if it's a clinical trial, we'll run it on them and we might be lucky.
So your answer is no. You won't answer. You won't give the patient what she wants.
This tricky question. I don't think it should be answered with a yes or no. It's just, I think I've answered it already.
You've answered
But
it.
we
Okay,
can't,
you've done your
we
best.
can't force, like I said, we can't force someone to leave. So if after all the counseling and the advice and the therapy, the patient still wants to go ahead, well, in that case, I think nobody can,
Stop
actually
that.
say otherwise.
All right.
But we have to
All
try
right.
everything. What I mean is just that we just have to try everything before surrendering.
To save the life. All right. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Yes.
We'll go for the last round of replies, last round of comments before we call it a day. If you are joining us for the first time, this is the Health Show. What we do here, we talk about public health topics. We share for you to be able to learn more about your health. You can subscribe and turn on the notification bell. And if you really want to partner with us while you're watching, there is a direct link to my WhatsApp in the video description. You can click it, tell me your name and tell me where you're from and tell me how you can partner with the Health Show. And we'll talk about that. Thank you very much. So we'll allow Aminu Balami to give his closing comments before Precious.
Okay, closing comment.
Yes, sir.
Hello?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah, so regarding closing comment is that I just want to stress, make emphasis on the importance of life. And we've seen people, rise up from nothing and become something. Like struggle is part of life. Struggling is part of life. Like I said, and you made mention that I made it seem like all diseases, can actually make someone to opt out for euthanasia, but actually it isn't. We, in the definition, I made mention of, diseases that can actually for those in coma or in too much pain. And I gave an example with chronic cluster headache. Like if you go on YouTube, you will see a lot of people, and it doesn't have a cure. But then there are people who are broken down, for some time, and they will still get back to themselves and still achieve greater things. So life just needs a chance. That's what I believe in. Life needs a chance.
All right. Thank you very much, Aminu. So Precious.
Yes.
Okay. I'm starting now. First thing I would like to say, and in terms of response and closing comments, is firstly, you should understand the peculiar nature of euthanasia itself. It's not something that applies all the time, and the reason why it's such a sensitive topic is because life itself, nobody wants to die, for crying out loud. Nobody wants to just end it, because you have dreams, you have aspirations, you have so many things you could go out to the world to enjoy. But to a point where someone wants to end their own life that could have plenty of potentials. There is this popular saying that the next kid born today could be the president. If such potential can exist, for someone to want to end their life because of pain and because of a very bad prognosis, is because, like, it took that person a lot of courage and a lot of guts. And also understand that the only thing that can motivate those kind of guts and courage is an extremely bad situation. That is the kind of sensitive stance where euthanasia actually exists. So we shouldn't make it sound like, oh, people actually just decide to kill themselves over something so trivial or over something that can be cured, such as depression or something like that, right? We're talking about diseases that cannot actually be cured. Maybe a very late stage of cancer where prognosis for chemotherapy or any other radiotherapy or whatever have actually failed. That is the kind of thing where this debate actually exists, right? If it's something like an illness that has cure, but maybe the situation is very bad, that in itself is different. The patient can actually say, oh, I still have a life after this illness, so I will endure the pain for now. But that's not the case in terms of this kind of illnesses that motivate this euthanasia. But secondly, and also a very important
The thing
point, is that we should understand that this debate cannot be centered around or in a world where religious sentiments have a high hold, right? I'm a Christian, but you should understand that the medical field or the medical world expands like far and beyond Christianity, Muslim, Buddhism, whatever it is. So we shouldn't, this debate cannot be about that, because it doesn't just apply to us who are religious or people who practice spirituality of some sort. But the second reason why it cannot be around that is because situations where people actually get healed or get better from get from these particular illnesses, they don't happen every day. If miracles were a daily occurrence, then we think then euthanasia, it would be a whole different conversation. That's all.
All right. Thank you very much. Balami, you seem to have 1 or 2 points to mention. Well done.
No, it's fine. It's fine. It's fine.
All right. All right. Okay. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying tuned. We are just a minute past our regular time. We ought to end this as at least 30 minutes. This is just 31 minutes since we began. So if you're here for the first time again, kindly subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and you'll be able to get noticed whenever we have a new video for you. So thank you, everyone. Thank you, Precious. Thank you, Aminu. The judges are going to watch the videos,
Thank
and
you,
they are going
everyone,
to send in
for tuning in.
their
Thank you.
scores.
Thanks
very
for
much.
watching.
Yeah. Bye. Bye. Bye.